You got to wrap up. You can't just hit. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, what's raining?
Live from the studios of the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the October 9th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Have questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Okay, we had that big Eagles-Rams game yesterday. Everyone took pleasure in seeing the 49ers dismantle the Cowboys. Even though I'm not a 49er fan, you can never root for the Cowboys. Sometimes you can, but they got blasted, and just a lot of stuff taking place around the NFL that we'll get to. But first, let's talk about that Eagles-Rams game and break it down, because I'm seeing stuff all over the board in terms of where everyone's opinions are. So one, I'll start off with this. The Eagles are the defending NFC champions, right? Two, the Eagles are were undefeated coming into SoFi yesterday. Three, in the spring, when the schedule was released, this game was an absolute blowout. I mean, we're talking 40-7, 45-3. The Rams didn't have a snowball's chance in the Sahara to pull this one off. But in the end, the Rams held the Eagles to 2 second-half field goals. And in the nutshell, with everything else that took place and transpired that we'll get to, if the timing on the throw from Matthew Stafford to Tutu Atwell with about 10 minutes left to play was just a little less than a fraction off, Atwell would have caught that, and the Rams would have gone up 21-20 in the fourth quarter, and the entire complexion of the game would have changed. That's how close it was. This was supposed to be, I'll go back to it here. I said this last week. This, for Ram fans, was supposed to be the season of pain, right? You put everybody in the street, you cut all the salaries, you didn't have a number one draft pick. This was supposed to be the season of pain. So I'm not calling this a moral victory, but just another building block in terms of this Ram team developing. If this defense still consisted of Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Leonard Floyd, Greg Gaines, A'Shawn Robinson, and to a lesser extent, Nick Scott and Taylor Rapp, then I think Ram fans would have every right to be furious by what they saw from the defense yesterday in terms of the missed tackles. Kobe Durant and Byron Young, people are talking about the great run that Jalen Hurts made on that was a 3rd and 9 play. It was a nice run by him, but fundamentally, Kobe Durant and Byron Young, you know what they look like? They look like two guys with about 3 years of NFL experience. And even that, it's probably more like 1 year, because Durant missed several games last year and Byron Young's only in his 5th game as a pro and didn't wrap up. Think you're going to knock somebody down. This ain't college, right? You hit somebody that squats 600 pounds. They're not just going to go down. I mean, credit to Jalen Hurts, but there was a lot of youth on display with that Ram defense yesterday. It also feels weird that professional NFL coaches, right, could sit in a meeting room all week, have a discussion on how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that, and somehow leave that war room, that planning session, come to the field and say, yeah, we're going to put Michael Hoyt on Dallas Goedert in coverage. I understand why people get frustrated with Michael Hoyt. He's an interior guy playing the edge, learning that position. But then when you're asking him to do that stuff that they're asking him to do in coverage, Leonard Floyd couldn't do that stuff they're asking him to do in coverage. And they need to recognize that even though the body is willing, and I'm not going to say the flesh is weak, but the flesh has a limitation when it comes to Michael Hoyt in coverage, and I don't understand why they keep putting him in that position. I was happy to hear Sean McVay said he loves Darian Kendrick because he competes. Yeah, Kendrick kind of got beat at the end of the first half on that A.J. Brown play, but A.J. Brown made a heck of a catch with one hand. Now, Kendrick compounded it with the horse collar and everything. I get it. But to go off on him on that pass interference call in the corner of the end zone, that was a horrendous call. A horrendous call. But sometimes I think people just like to have their whipping boys no matter what. So we've decided we don't like Darian Kendrick. So even though the official swallowed the jalapeno on that call, completely butchered that call could have gone on A.J. Brown or could have gone on the offensive player. Maybe on Kendrick. There shouldn't have been any call at all. He throws the flag. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because the Philly is the NFC defending champions, right? They're the defending champions in the NFC, and they love the narrative. That's my conspiracy side. There you go. I let it slip out. But it was a horrendous call. Horrendous. And you give that kind of advantage to the NFC champions against a team like the Rams, especially on defense. And we broke it down before everyone stole it from us that Aaron Donald had 7,000 snaps coming into this season. The rest of that defense combined had 5,000, and 3,000 of those snaps were between Jordan Fuller and Ernest Jones. This is a completely inexperienced team, and they're competing. And you give a pass interference penalty like that, of course, the NFC champions, the defending NFC champions, are going to take advantage of it. So take your wrath out on the ref, take your wrath out on the youth, but really slow it down when it comes to Darian Kendrick. And yes, I totally get it. I'm not total fanboy here. If the Rams are going to compete, they need a better edge presence. We know that. I get that, no doubt. Byron Young needs time to develop. Ochoan Mathis, who played 10 snaps, had a couple of hurries. There was that one play, and I thought Greg Olsen pointed it out really well, where Hoyt didn't hold the edge, and it allowed Jalen Hurts to run to his right, where you saw Ochoan Mathis chase him down or attempt to chase him down. And so, yeah, I'd love to see some more snaps for Ochoan Mathis. And honestly, he's probably a little more athletic than Hoyt in coverage if the Rams are insisting on some of those those pass coverage schemes. And the bottom line is, yeah, they need a better edge if they're going to compete. But then again, I go back to this. This is the season of pain, and we're 2-3, right? It's the season of pain, and the Rams are 2-3. This young team needs time to develop its own muscle and not go and rely on anybody else. I don't think this young defense is in a position yet where you're looking for a finishing piece. Does that make sense? It's not at a place where it's like, we need to cap this off. Let's bring in a Von Miller. No, even on our best day, if the 49ers played like they did last night, now they didn't play that well in was it week 2 against the Rams, right? They didn't play that well, but they played pretty well last night. And I don't know if we're going to beat them if they play that well again. And there's something to say. They might be peaking. Injuries haven't set in yet. It's only 5 weeks in. It's a long season. I don't think that this Ram defense is ready for a finishing piece yet. Let these guys develop. Let them find themselves. Don't bring in a veteran to suck the oxygen out of the room. Don't bring in a veteran to necessarily tap resources. This team is not a Super Bowl team just yet. The window is being reopened. We closed it, and now they're slowly reopening it. I expected this Rams team to be 1-4 at this point in the season, and that was without panic. I fully expected them to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3-6 and 4-5 the first half of the season before heading to the bye in week 10. They've exceeded expectations. The defense has been better than expected early on. So let's stay on this this logical progression of growth, and let's see where they are in week 12, week 13. Now that'll be past the trading deadline, but let's see them develop and understand of what this season, and remember what this season's going to be. Honestly, if not for the youth of this team, a brain freeze by the coaching staff in Cincy, there's a path. A little convoluted, but there's a path where you could look at this Rams team and think they could be 5-0. They should have won in Cincy. We know that. Brain freeze by the coaching staff. a couple of youth mistakes against the 49ers, and they could have beat the 49ers. They could have beat them. They're the only team that's competed with the 49ers this year, and they could have beat the 49ers, right? And then, of course, yesterday, a couple of plays change everything. And so no, really interesting. This team is solid. That's not fanboy to say that. It's legit. Rams lost to Frisco by 7, Cincy by 3, and Philly by 9. And Cincy looks like it's snapping back and likely will be a playoff team. But 3 games by 19 total points. You average that out, that's less than 1 possession. The Rams are losing their games by. No one could have foresaw that coming out of the spring. No one could have seen that heading into this season. In fact, they weren't. I want to say Ellerbogen and myself, and I don't even know Jake Ellerbogen. He works hard. He's a good dude in terms of the work he does. He was the only other one I was seeing that had any optimism for this Rams season when everyone was saying 6 wins or 4 wins. I was seeing 9. I was seeing if there was breaks that go their way, I could see 10. I saw a really slow start. And yeah, so it's not a moral victory, but it's just another, hey, you learned a lesson and you lost to the defending champs. You only gave up 2 field goals in the second half against a Super Bowl team. And then honestly, you had a horrific call in the end zone. Horrific. It was a terrible pass interference penalty on Kendrick. And that probably would have led to a field goal in that moment as well, instead of a touchdown. And then you take away a touchdown, you got a 16-14 game. And yeah, you're in a different ball game. So let's not get too worked up. Let's not overreact. But, I make sure that Kobe Durant, Byron Young, and some of these guys are wrapping up in practice this week. And that's not to say our young guys aren't having some struggle. People are upset with Darian Kendrick. I'm a little more disappointed in Kobe Durant right now because you expect more from him. I know he's learning a new position, so to speak, but we'll come back and we'll talk snaps, injuries, and everything else after the break. But first, let's go around the NFL a little bit. Saw some of the injuries yesterday, Vikings and Justin Jefferson. That one's terrible. It's just a hamstring, hopefully, and we'll see if he makes it back soon. But yeah, that was a tough one to watch. But at the top of the list there, and I'm glad other people are starting to bring it up. Mac Jones is not really the problem in New England. Bill Belichick's the problem. He's like Harrison Ford still trying to play Indiana Jones, right? He's like 77-year-old Sylvester Stallone still trying to do a Rocky movie. It's like I don't know. It's like anytime someone tells you that Jonah Goldberg's funny, it's just not working anymore. It's not. They need to make a change because there is nothing around Mac Jones. You look at that team. There's nothing you would want in fantasy football from that team. And then they lost Judon. They've lost Christian Gonzalez. What are they doing there? And it's supposed to be all Mac Jones' fault. And I'm not saying Mac Jones is great. If I'm Mac Jones, I'm kind of hoping they release me this week, right? Just release me and let the Rams sign him or something. But I bet you going to another coach. I bet you winding up with a Sean McVay or with Kyle Shanahan, people's opinions about Mac Jones are going to change because that is a disaster in New England. An absolute disaster. 38-3 was the final last week and 34-0 yesterday? That's a disaster, and that's not all on Mac Jones. Second one, the bad one to see was also Anthony Richardson getting hurt for the Colts, right? And everyone's saying, hey, let the young guys run. Let them do what they do. Yeah, that's why you don't let the young guys run. The guy's got a grade 3 AC joint sprain in his shoulder. He's going to go on IR. He's going to be gone for a month. And let's just do the sum total of what Anthony Richardson is. 5 weeks into his NFL career, he's played 4 games. He's finished 1. Of course, that was against the Rams, but he's only finished 1. He's shown enough that he's going to be a capable NFL starter, but the truth is you got to back this kid off from running. Spend the whole year like a preseason, teach him how to throw the ball, teach him how to read defenses, teach him how to stay in the pocket, and then you could allow him to do things next year as the years go on, and let him run out of reaction and not run from design. You're going to kill this kid, and this kid could be something really, really special. Speaking of Lamar Jackson and really, really special, I kept hearing Lamar Jackson's an MVP candidate. Oh, he's an MVP candidate. And then I keep hearing, going in, he's got the best talent around him he's ever had, as if to excuse anything that happened the previous 2 years. Well, now they put the best talent around him he's ever had a bunch of drops yesterday, and then in crunch time, he threw the pick. Joey Porter Jr. got his first career NFL pick. I think it was his first, right? And it was a horrible pass. It was just a bad pass. And then he stripped. And I can only use this by the metric that they would use this with Matthew Stafford. Lamar Jackson, they're talking about passes that were dropped and maybe he needs some help and there's injuries in the offensive line. I guarantee you if that was Matthew Stafford, it would be how much Matthew Stafford sucks, right? Lamar Jackson has been somewhat protected. He has got to step up. He has got to make chicken salad out of chicken cheese. You know what I'm saying? He's got to learn how to make lemonade out of lemons, right? He's got to learn to do these things to get to the next level, because they do have an opportunity. And I called the game. I'm so happy I called that game. It was hard to pick against Pittsburgh. Again, you couldn't believe they were as horrible as they were in Houston. But yeah, they did just enough. And I guess it's not Heinz Field anymore. I don't know what field it is anymore. Why don't they just call it Rooney Field? But they pulled off that win. Nasty, ugly, but good for the Steelers. And, kind of encourages me about the Rams playing the Steelers in a couple weeks. For Dallas, it's back to the drawing board. And are they going to admit that, it's time to move off Dak Prescott, right? Maybe not this year, but yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, yeah, I think Jerry Jones has been a little too fanboy for Dak Prescott. He's okay. And that defense, it's a big play defense, but it's not a great defense. And I love it when people say, where was Aaron Donald? Well, where was Micah Parsons yesterday, right? Where was Micah Parsons? Because that looked like the Fred Warner show. Frisco is the best team in the league, but the only squad that gave them a tough game this year through 5 weeks is the Rams. Tutu completes the route. Kyrene Williams doesn't let that ball go off his hands, and something different happens. Something different happens in that week 2 game. Okay, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView. I was a sports writer for 21 years, and I was one of the founding members of Mid-Valley Sports. They're still going. They're in the room with the Chargers, Tim and Dwayne. And I do RamView, and I write books. And thanks to our sponsors, I do RamView. And then I write books. They're on Amazon. You type in Joe Tarosian, and you'll see them there. Hopefully, at the end of the week, I'm going to be publishing a short football story based around the Rams. I'm looking forward to doing that. That'll be ebook form. And I do these things so I can do my day job. My day job, even though it is the day, is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can check us out here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, as well as BurbankFaithVirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual on Facebook, and in and around other places. Or you could just type in my name, Torosian, Joe Tarosian. And I thank you for your support. We thank you as our numbers have increased, and those that are watching us. Just want to encourage you, if you can subscribe and like and share here. If you could also go over to Spotify, where we're trying to make an imprint there and build our thing there. It's not been well. We have not done well on Spotify, but if you could check us out there, we'd be grateful. Thank you so much. Okay, injury update. You guys saw Bobby Brown carted off the field with an apparent knee injury. Yeah, we don't know what that is. I haven't seen anything yet. I've been looking around. Rob Havenstein seemed to got knocked loopy a little bit. And then Coleman Shelton had something with his hand, but he came back. Those were the injuries that I heard about or we saw on the field. I think someone said Aaron Donald got a little dinged up, but he's okay. So we'll give you another update. The Brown one was the serious one, as he was carted off. He had left earlier with an elbow injury. His grades were pretty good on PFF. Again, the grades on PFF are a great place to start. They're a nice baseline, but your eyes tell you what you see. I'm really getting sick of the brotherly push, the Bush push, the tush push, or whatever they call it. It does work for Philly, but what I don't understand is, as you see, they line up backs and everybody behind Jalen Hurts to push him forward. I don't understand why the linebackers and safeties behind the front line keep going high and going over the top when they should be adding that added leverage to the back of the defensive line. It was interesting because as the Rams were doing that very same thing, you see Jones and other defenders going over the top, they lose all the leverage, right? So there's that initial stop, and then there's that push because they got that back help coming in for Jalen Hurts. On one of those plays, I really didn't like it. I was watching it in the Ram Cave here. It was actually with the Mid Valley Sports guys. We were watching it in the Ram Cave. What I didn't really like was on one of those plays, by the time it was over, Bobby Brown was standing up. He was standing up. And it's like, man, he should have been down in the trenches, but that's how far back he got pushed. And I don't want the NFL to outlaw that play, but honestly, defenses, I mean, stop going up. You got to maintain leverage and come back in and support the people in the trenches. Inactives yesterday, DeJuan Johnson has the thumb issue. Joe Noteboom, which we talked about, and that was probably a good deal. Saying Zach Thomas didn't dress, that was good. Nick Hampton didn't dress. That was probably because Oshwan Mathis was back. But the interesting one was Demarcus Robinson didn't dress. And we're going to get into that with snaps. But Demarcus Robinson, you wonder what his place is right now until the Rams make some sort of decision on Van Jefferson. When you look at those snaps on the offense, everything was pretty much status quo. But Ben Skoranek played 6 snaps. And you understand because Ben Skoranek is a utility knife, right? You could use him here and there and do other things. But Van Jefferson only played 2 snaps the entire game. 2 snaps. So what we saw was on that field yesterday, outside of a few injuries along the offensive line, I think what we saw is what Sean McVay wants, and that's Atwell, and that is Nakua, and that is Cooper Kupp, and it looks pretty good. I think we can definitely live with that. Atwell's targets dropped to 5. But he had 2 catches, and of course the nice catch on the touchdown. And then he had his first real drop of the season. And of course, again, just that one slight miss by Matthew Stafford, him just not being in sync, and that would have been a go-ahead touchdown with 10 minutes to play. Looking at these numbers, the Eagles ran 78 plays to the Rams, 56, 55. You take away the last 5 or 6 plays on that last drive, and the Rams had about 50 snaps. The time of possession rounded up. The Eagles had the ball 38 minutes, the Rams 22 minutes. And that really, to me, not only was the defense getting worn down because they weren't tackling, they weren't getting off the field. The Eagles converted 13 of 18 third downs, right? That's terrible. Rams only 6 of 14. And so it wasn't just that the defense was on the field for so long, but because the offense was on the field for so short a time, the Rams, don't have the ability to grind out the clock for 30 minutes. They just not necessarily don't. And they're not built that way. And I don't know if McVay ever would let them be built that way. It seems not in this present formation with these running backs and everything. But offensively, there was the missed shot to Atwell we talked about, but Nakua's drop early in the game killed the drive, right? They had to get off the field and punt it, and every Eagle drive was 7 to 8 minutes long, right? So the Rams run-pass ratio was skewed. If you take away the last 5 plays of the game, which were just those, the game was over. I think Stafford threw 4 passes. I think Kyren Williams had 1 rush. So Rams ran about 50 plays, and they only ran the ball 13, 14 times. It was because they had to play with urgency because they never knew when they were getting the ball back. I totally agree with that thought. It's easy to understand why they were passing the ball. And also, the Eagles' strength is in stopping the run, and there was vulnerability in that secondary. And there were some missed throws between Kupp and Stafford that maybe by week 7, those aren't going to be misses. There was the drop. Atwell had a key drop. Nakua had a key drop. I think Higbee had a key drop. Those were things that would completely kind of, again, change things. in terms of time of possession, Rams being on the field and leading to scoring opportunities. But the vulnerability was in the Philly secondary. And I don't think there was an issue here about the Rams not running the ball enough. The O-line grades weren't great, but not horrid. Ochoa Mathis, we talked about, had 10 snaps. Duke Shelley had 9 snaps. And that was interesting to see because there was no THT yesterday, no Trey Tomlinson. And so you're kind of wondering, what were the Rams doing with him yesterday? He was dressed, but he did not get any snaps, at least on any that I saw. So just something to keep in mind for the Rams going forward. But again, this is supposed to be the season of pain. Let's not get crazy fanboy and think, we should be 5-0. Yeah, there's a possibility we could have been 5-0. There's a real possibility we should be 3-2, 4-1, some of these games. But the Rams are exceeding expectation. They are playing better earlier than we thought they would. And I think it bodes well for the second half because Cleveland has problems. I think Baltimore has problems. Pittsburgh has some issues. You're playing the Cardinals twice. The Texans have issues. The Giants have issues. That's 7 games right there, folks. That puts you in the 9-win realm. And that's not talking about a rematch against Seattle. That's not talking about a rematch at the end of the year against Frisco, which, again, be wary of this when you talk about Frisco. They are playing the best football in the league right now, but it's in week 5. Can you sustain, right, from now until January, this level of play? And when will the injuries start taking a toll? So it is something to think about. AMS, I'll answer that. Yeah. Would it hurt to trade for an edge rusher? Again, I think if the Rams had won this game, I think they were definitely a buyer before the trade deadline. But as I said earlier in the show, this is the season of pain. I think we got to let these guys grow. I mean, we lost by 9 points to the defending NFC champs, held them to 2 field goals in the second half. I think it would be great to have another edge rusher. I really do. But I'd much rather see the snaps go to Byron Young, Oshawon Mathis, and those guys, maybe some Nick Hampton. Let these guys develop and let's see what we got, and then see if we stay in the hunt here. I just don't want to give up a lot of resources before next year. But we'll see. They lost the game. They didn't win. So they're still in that realm of 9 wins is a real possibility. I think if they had beaten Philly, people would have been talking about them like they're a legitimate contender in the NFC, and I guess you could have. And isn't that funny? Because we talked about it. That pass to Atwell gets completed. It's 21-20, and the game has a completely different complexion with 10 minutes to play. It really does. And there's going to be new life that comes into the defense, new life that comes into the offense after that, new fear built into the Philly defense. The Rams are connecting. It was close. And I'm going to put it this way, AMS. I'm not going to cry foul. I'm going to trust McSnead on this. But again, I want to live through the season of pain right now. I want to see if these guys can develop, because if you get something to develop out of Mathis and Young, then you got 2 cheap edge rushers for the next couple years, and that allows the Rams to do other things on offense, which maybe pick up another offensive lineman piece, because Havenstein's in his 9th year. We don't know how long we're going to have Alaric Jackson, Noteboom. I think we feel like we got a key piece in Avila, and we're still in a honeymoon phase with Dotson. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm not going to cry foul if we do, but I'd kind of like to live through this season of pain. How do we fix the late second quarter downfalls? Again, I go back to it. I thought A.J. Brown made a nice catch. Yeah, Kendrick horse-collared him. I get that. That pass interference penalty in the end zone was horse. It was garbage. I thought that was a terrible call, but that's the call the NFC champions get. And I'm not too worked up about it. I was listening to McVay's post game. He goes, there's still 4 quarters to play. There's still a whole second half. And maybe a young team, it has an effect. On a mature, experienced team, there's not going to be an effect. And again, every time this team plays, every time they log minutes, every time they log snaps, they're going to get better. And I think it's going to become less and less of an issue. Again, Philadelphia is a really good team. It's a really good team. What happened in Indy last week, I didn't like. The Rams looked tired. I'm not so worried about the whole second half issues as some others are right now. We're home next week. We are home this week. We're home next week against the Cardinals. We're going to see what's going to happen. My only problem with the Cardinals is they're not the cakewalk I thought they'd be this offseason. I'm not saying they're good, but I'm just saying they're just not a cakewalk. All right, let's move to college football real quick. Note to Mario Cristobal, okay? I totally get how someone may feel. As an American, I would never take a knee to anybody. I wouldn't bow or curtsy before any earthly king. I wouldn't bow or play less than to anybody on this planet. I don't care if it's a president or a pope. I'm not taking a knee to nobody but God. Maybe proposing, it's appropriate to take a knee to your future wife, but I get being averse to taking a knee. But when you're the head coach at Miami, right, and you've got a lead over Georgia Tech, and all you got to do to close out the game, take the knee. Take the knee. He should be brutalized, and he is getting brutalized. I'm not saying fired, but he should be so brutalized and traumatized by the fan base and every Hurricane alum for giving that away that he should just feel miserable for it. Misery's a good thing. He should be feeling miserable. He shouldn't be getting, oh, that's okay, Mario. No, he needs to feel miserable, so miserable that he'll never want to go through that HE double hockey sticks again, so he never makes that same mistake again. Maryland, Ohio State, I saw part of that game, found myself rooting for the Terrapins. I just want to hear Ryan Day blame Lou Holtz for something else. Oklahoma, Texas, Dylan Gabriel. I never had him ranked that high, but man, that guy's gutsy, right? That guy played himself as a backup into being a backup quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he's a starter, but man, good job for Dylan Gabriel, huh? And Sark losing at home. I know some people are saying it's no big deal, but Sark never seems to win those big games, right? I mean, Alabama, but it wasn't Alabama with Tua. It wasn't Alabama with Mac. It was Alabama with a quarterback that was kind of, Sark, no bueno. Washington State, UCLA. I was rooting for the Cougs. UCLA came back and won. That was a really nice win for Chip Kelly. Arizona, USC. Note to the Wildcats. When you have a chance to go for two in overtime to end the game, a game against Caleb Williams, you do it. You don't give Caleb Williams any future opportunities. You have a shot. You got a horrible SC defense. And I'll tell you right now, I said it last week, for SC fans, you're going to hate me for saying it. I kind of root for SC. But right now, Notre Dame at South Bend, Utah, half bye week, you play Cal up in Berkeley, and then you get Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. Does that sound like an NCAA playoff team to you? Doesn't sound like an NCAA playoff team to me. Not when you're giving up 40 points to Arizona, not when you're giving up 40 points to Colorado, not when you're getting pushed by Arizona State. No, they're not. You're not that good, and SC is going to take a tumble. I don't want it to happen, but it is going to happen. Looking back at week 5, Browns, Chargers, Seahawks, and Buccaneers were on byes. Bears, Taxskins, we talked about that game. Really is time for the Bears, not the Bears, the Taxskins to pivot to Eric Bieniemy. Riverboat Ron is the Jeff Fisher of the 2020s. He can take a team from the abyss, but he can't get them above mediocrity. Sunday's games, Jaguars, Bills. Jags won 25-20. I took the Bills. Buffalo's run game was completely shut down. And on the contrary, the Jaguars, Travis Etienne looked like he was back at Clemson, ran for 156 yards. And then Trevor Lawrence just made plays. So good for the Jaguars, right? They're back to 3-2, and they're back to looking like the class of the AFC South. Good for them. Falcons, Texans. I haven't given any respect to the Falcons this year, but give Desmond Ridder credit. Desmond Ridder played a good game. C.J. Stroud brought them back. Touchdown pass to Dalton Schultz, and I thought the Texans had that one, but good for the Falcons coming back. Lions, Panthers. Hey, Hutchinson had a sack and a pick. If that defense keeps developing, are they going to beat the 49ers? I don't know. But if this defense keeps developing, they're going to be in a pain in the neck for somebody. Colts, Titans. We talked about Anthony Richardson. Well, let the young guys run. Well, you let them run. Huge loss. Indy still got the win. Gardner Minshew might be the number one backup quarterback in America. Indy won 23-16. Dolphins, Giants, Fins 31, G-Men 16. Shouldn't Miami have scored more? I don't know. I didn't see the game, but I'm wondering why they didn't score more. And honestly, Daniel Jones should file a lawsuit against the Giants for harm and injury, because everyone's bagging on Daniel Jones. That guy's getting beat up more than Dwayne Bobbitt. I mean, he is getting smashed left and right. And sorry about my Dwayne Bobbitt one, but he's the only one I think of when getting smashed left and right. Saints, Patriots. Belichick looks like Willie Mays circa 73. He looks like Unitas in San Diego. He looks like Ruth with the Boston Braves. That just looks old, huh? I mean, you look at the Patriots, all you can think of is, man, that is so jejune, right? It's so yesterday. Steelers, Ravens, I'm happy. Even Steeler fan Rob in Missouri was hesitant to call this game. And so Steeler fan Rob, I know you're out there watching right now. You need to put in the box right now, say, Joe was right. I told you the Steelers were going to win this game. Ravens, you just never know about, but that Steeler defense you can count on as long as the offense doesn't keep putting them behind the 8 ball. I'm not saying I'm a full believer in Steelers now, but they did get that win. I did take the Cardinals over the Bengals, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase all woke up. My hope here is after a 34-20 loss by the Cardinals, that they're kind of ready to call it a season, that they're going to say, hey, we gave it the old college try. We're 1-4 now. We're beaten up. We just need to work on, getting a good draft pick, because and James Conner got hurt too in that game. So that sort of helps the Rams going forward. Jets, Broncos, we did take the Jets over the Broncos. We said the Jets need to pound the ball, and they did. Breece Hall, 177 yards rushing. KC, 27, Vikings, 20. KC is still cruising for a bruising, right? You don't like what you're seeing in KC, that heart palpitation that went through all of Chiefs Kingdom when Travis Kelce turned his ankle. Don't tell me some people weren't thinking Achilles, right? Don't tell me. And I wonder what the reaction would have been in terms of Taylor Swift, right? I still think Taylor Swift is bad mojo for Chiefs Kingdom. And 49ers, Cowboys. We took the 49ers. Didn't know it was going to be that bad. It's pretty scary, right? Pretty scary. There were some throws that Brock Purdy made that just had our jaws dropping yesterday. They weren't gun throws like Matthew Stafford makes, but they were just throws. There was the one they actually took the time to show it from behind Purdy and how he threw into that window. And we know this about quarterbacks in anticipation. I understand that. I played some quarterback, but how he threw into that deep window, that deep dig route that Deebo Samuel was running. And it was just marvelous. It was just beautiful. And he's tough to hate. To me, the 49ers are tough to hate because they're playing really good football and you can see what they're doing. I don't feel like they're falsely advanced. Cowboys are always falsely advanced. They're always pushed like we're supposed to really believe, and yeah, the Frisco is rightly advanced because they are good. But I think, as someone said, they're likely peaking a little too early. Packers, Raiders tonight. What can you say? Do you choose the Raiders for anything? Are they going to go Aiden O'Connell or are they going to go Brian Hoyer? I don't know. I'm going Packers and Jordan Love. I wouldn't mind seeing the Packers getting a little bit of a beat down. I want them depressed and demoralized when the Rams go to Lambeau in week 9. But in week 9, I mean, we're halfway there, right? This was just the end of week 5. I'm going to go with the Packers tonight. I hope Josh Jacobs runs for 300 yards because I need a fantasy win. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers over the Raiders tonight. I'm going to say 27-10 Packers. There we go. We're not going to do on this date because we are over 30 minutes and there was just a lot of stuff to cover. But I think that's where we're at today. I think it was a Stone Groove, my man. It was a Stone Groove show. Tim Burns, Joe Terozzi and his team, Selena. Rams did a better job against the 49ers than those Cowgirls. Yes, Mark Reiber, you're absolutely right. And then Tim Burns had the line. Couldn't put my finger on it, but the 3 receiver bunchings and empty backfield formations looked uncomfortable, like the routes were not run right, other than Kupp's same routes that he ran over and over. Dan O, why do I call the Commanders the Taxskins? Okay, I'll answer that one, Dan O. The Taxskins, just because I hate the name Commanders. I hate the name Commanders. If I had a second team in the NFL, it was the Redskins. First Super Bowl I ever saw. I really like George Allen. Love Joe Gibbs. Can I just say this real quick? Yeah, I hated the name. I hated the name Commanders. And so yeah, it's Washington. They tax a lot of people, so I call them the Taxskins. That's why I call them the Taxskins. But can I just say this about they talked about coaches making quarterbacks and quarterbacks making coaches, right? And how Belichick hasn't won a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. Okay. All right, it's been a few years, but okay. Lombardi never won a championship without Bart Starr. Shula never won a championship without Bob Greasy, right? Jimmy Johnson didn't win a championship without Troy Aikman. Chuck Noll didn't win a championship without Terry Bradshaw. But can I mention a guy named Joe Gibbs, coach of the Washington Redskins? In 1982, he won with Joe Theismann, Hall of the Very Good. In 1987, he won a Super Bowl with Doug Williams, Hall of the Very Good. In 1991, he won a Super Bowl with really a flash in the pan, who was Mark Rippon out of Washington State, Cougar. And Joe Gibbs, man, to me, the more people want to have a conversation about, Belichick and Brady carried Belichick or something like that. Let's just take a look at Joe Gibbs and see this guy won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Bill Walsh won what? 3, all with Montana. George Seifert won 2, one with Montana and one with Steve Young. I'm trying to think of anybody else who's won multiple Super Bowls. Bill Parcells won with Phil Simms and Jeff Hostetler. Okay, same house. Simms was still in the building. But when Williams won Gibbs' second Super Bowl, Theismann was long gone. And by the time Rippon won the 3rd Super Bowl, Williams was long gone. And so I just give credit. I think we should acknowledge Joe Gibbs as maybe one of the better coaches of all time, and he kind of gets lost and forgotten. But that's my background on the Taxskins there. I loved Hail to the Redskins. I love John Riggins. I'm still a Ram fan, but they were my second team growing up. Okay. Wow. I got 10 people watching. Thank you so much for watching right now. Guys, if you get a chance, hit like, subscribe, follow us on Spotify. I have to run because I got to get to another meeting. Otherwise, I would chit chat all day. I love the questions. Mark Raber, Dan O, AMS, Tim Burns, Rob Sorge. Thank you so much for clicking on. And please, again, hit the like, hit the share. And help us build our footprint here on YouTube, as well as we load this up later on Spotify. Wow, this is the biggest live broadcast I've had. Folks, thank you so much. We will be back Wednesday, and God bless. Take care, and we will talk to you very, very soon. I'm Joe Terosian. God bless.